Farescape Engineers Inspector Summary video. We're here in Fort Lee. This is one of 7 fire escapes here on Central Ave. First thing we're going to talk about is the City of Fort Lee. They're looking for the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength a fire escape certification. So as far as a load test, this fire escape is not ready for a load test. It did not pass the confidence test because we have a lot of rust and a lot of connections, and so this makes this fire escape not able to go directly to a load test. It did not pass the confidence test. I'm looking for other evidence of strength to avoid a load test, and that is, has it been maintained over its lifetime? I've got nothing but original hardware here. Every single one of these connections is either a square head bolt, a wrap, a square, and very rare a couple of rivets here and there, but the entire fire escape system is all original hardware with no evidence of any maintenance other than a paint job. So right now we have to look at what needs to be done, and there's only 2 options here. The client can spot repair all the connections that I'm about to point out on this fire escape, and I'm going to go in great detail on this fire escape, and then the remaining fire escapes will always reference back to this one, what needs to be done, because they sort of mirror each other, but we'll get information on all 7. But right now we have original hardware, and this fire escape needs to be spot repaired, and that is any connection that has rust like this one doesn't have any rust, so it can stay, but then I need to load test this fire escape in this area. If I change this bolt out, I don't need to load test it, because I've even though the connections was in good to excellent condition, I replaced the bolt, I don't need a load test. So with that in mind, I'm going to start doing a fire escape review of everything I found on this fire escape, and this will sort of be the model for all the others fire escapes, even though they're going to get short summary reviews. This one is going to go in great detail. So let me see the camera back here, and I'll go into. So Inspector Valise and I have been here doing inspections. We're doing all 7 fire escapes. So let's talk about what's the story here. On this ladder, this existing ladder still has original hardware. So what we need to do on the original hardware is either load test it, or we can change these bolts out and avoid a load test. So all original hardware here. All original hardware there. So load test or change the hardware out to avoid the load. All original hardware. Swap it all out. We've got original hardware here, and we got wraps. So all these wraps must be opened and remove any rust, and silicone sealed. So anytime you remove a bolt, remove a connection, I want it sealed, primed, and then sealed with 50-year silicone. This fire escape has a red oxide base. And a lot of times a fire escape that's older than 1978 is an indication that the fire escape has lead. So all fire escapes older than 1978, they're presumed to have lead unless the client gives us a document from a certified New Jersey lead inspector that there is no lead or very low lead on this fire escape. Otherwise, you must be a licensed renovator to touch this fire escape. 100% of all the major structural needs to be redone. So I want all these bolts swapped out if you want to avoid the load test. Otherwise, if you verify every one of these connections and seal it, then we need to load test this platform. These rails need to have a lateral load test, and this platform needs to have a load test. Every one of these treads needs to be changed out because there's rust in every single one. Let me just go backwards here. A lot of these bolts are not properly seating correctly, so change these bolts out, change these bolts out. See all the rust inside the connections? 100% of all the treads must come out. Change the bolts because the rust has built up in here. Then you got to seal this with silicone so that the water doesn't go in and start rusting this anymore. Cement related. All the connections into the wall are showing some spalling, and this is opening. Water's getting in here. See, water's getting in there. Water's getting in here. So all of these need to be verified. So once we verify this, and then that avoids the necessity of load testing this, or you can seal these up, and about 5 inches away we can put an epoxy bolt, and that will duplicate this connection, without having to verify this connection. We just need to seal this all up so water doesn't get back into this building. We can also do one other thing to avoid any drilling on this wall. We can put support legs on the corners all the way down to the ground. And by doing that, you avoid masonry activity into the building, and it basically lets the leg on the outside be a leg and then the building be another leg. So that's another option for this building. A lot of rust, needs a full paint job. Starts repeating itself now. Original hardware. Load test it or remove the bolts, seal it with silicone, and you avoid the load test. All the corners are welded. So a lot of these C-channels that were originally made to be bolted together, they weld them. So those welds need to be x-rayed or load tested, but you can put a clip in there, and as soon as you put a clip inside the corners where these C-channels come out and meet the other C-channel, then you don't have to load test because you've reinforced in lieu of a load test. Same thing here, all original hardware. 100% of the treads needs to be removed and put back because there's rust in every single tread. This tight clip, don't need to change this out. If we're going to load test this, you don't need to change this out. But if you change the bolts out, then there's no need for a load test. Okay? All right, let's continue here. We got rails. One of the biggest problems with railings is that when you make a sandwich between the bottom rail and the channel, it rusts up. So this whole thing is rusted. So all the rails must be removed, change all the bolts, clean out both sides, reattach all the rails. But then inside here, we need to not only prime it, we need to seal it with silicone set on both sides so that this doesn't rust up anymore. As you can see, all the rust is building up on my treads. All my angle clips at the bottom, they're just notched in. They're supposed to have a clip in here that picks up this and picks up this. The hole was there for them, but the guy never did it. So this needs not only to have a channel clip at the top or a stringer clip at the top, but they need stringer clips at the bottom. So it needs that. Again, problem with cement again. Water's been getting in here. It's feeding water backwards. And as you can see, there's a lot of cement work that needs to be done. So again, load test this platform after you've sealed these up to confirm that the platforms are good, or 5 inches away, put in an epoxy bolt, 3/4 inch, 8 to 12 inches deep, and then an angle clip that goes back here and back here. Mechanically fasten it this way, anchor bolt it this way, and seal this whole entire connection into the building, and that avoids the having to load test the platform. Changing all the treads changing all the bolts on the treads. You don't have to load test the treads. Any of these welded rails, I need to x-ray or load test this, but as soon as I drill a hole through here and here, and I put a bolt on this, I don't need to do that. It starts repeating itself. All original hardware. Needs a paint job. All my platforms. These are minor structural, these little rivets. Everyone must be verified. But then the ones that run from side to side, or the ones that run from front to back, these need to be verified because the major structural on the flats need to be verified. So both the supports and the railing and the C-channel create a sandwich. All that needs to be verified so that the grading does not move and does not shift. This is your drop cantilever section. This must drop 2 to 3 feet per second. As you can see, all original hardware. All this must be changed out. The weights and the cables look pretty good, but this hasn't seen any grease. These pulleys haven't seen any grease in a while, so these all need to be re-greased. And this must drop 2 to 3 feet per second when released. We need a release arm down below, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Rust in all the connections. See? Rust in every single one of these treads. Rust. Rust. Rust in all the connections of the treads. Okay. Now, repeat. All the cement repeats. As you can see, it's starting to, the caulking starting to give way. This ladder was hit by a truck. So this ladder is a candidate for the whole entire system to be under, as you can see the bend down there. See the bend? This whole entire ladder and this whole entire fire escape system can be done through insurance because it was hit. All these cables need to be verified. You need to have a double. You can't have a single. It needs a double in case there's any slippage. And it needs a release arm. You can have a release arm here. It could be a simple chain that wraps around the loop so that when you release the chain or release the bar, These drop 2 to 3 feet per second, hit the ground and stay down, and you cannot have a bar that is a trip hazard. So this must be level with this here, so you can step through. Original, a lot of peeling paint, as you can see here. So 100% of all the treads on this fire escape must be removed. So the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. There is no evidence that any maintenance has ever been done to this fire escape other than a paint job. All original square head bolts, rust in a majority of the connections. This fire escape is a candidate for a refurb in lieu of a spot repair and a load test, because the cost is going to be at or above the spot repair and the load test. They're going to be pretty much equal to each other. One of the issues, when you load test a fire escape, every 5 years you got to load test the fire escape. Whereas if you refurbish, the average life cycle of a load test request is every 20 to 25 years. 100% of all the connections are going to be sealed with silicone and with new bolts, so this fire escape will just be maintained by paint for the next 25 plus years. If you have any questions in regards to the ladder, again, is bent, so that needs to be straightened and balanced so that it drops 2 to 3 per second. We have 4 more fire escapes on this side of the building, and they should all have pretty much the same exact problem as this one, but they will get some video on each and every single one of these. Any questions? Fire escape engineers, inspector summary video. This is Inspector Meneses. We got Inspector Valise here, and we perform the inspections here in Central Avenue in Fort Lee. Welcome to Firescape Services. We provide inspections and certifications, repairs, and load tests to remove violations in your area and nationwide. So whether you're an inspector or whether you're somebody, you have your own home, you have your own building, the first thing is the law is very clear. It must be structurally sound and must be kept painted. So is the fire escape painted or is it not painted? And does it have more paint than rust or more rust than paint? So I can just look at this fire escape and say that I have evidence right now that there's more rust than paint on this fire escape. So immediately, if you were to call an inspector out here, the law doesn't allow him to pass this fire escape simply because it has more rust than paint. And structural means that if the fire escape is 50 to 75 years old, when any inspector is looking at it, he's got to see some evidence of maintenance. And maintenance means that I have to see a change in bolts, I have to see a change in rivets, I have to see some new hardware. Because when I go up to a fire escape, I see nothing but original hardware. That hardware is 50 to 75 years old. It's been out in the weather 50 to 75 years, and it's just impossible for not one of those rivets, one of those bolts to be changed in 50 to 75 years. And whenever that occurs, what I have is a fire escape that somebody's been constantly painting, but they've never done anything structurally to it. So now that makes the entire fire escape pretty much suspect. So now I have to be careful as to what I'm looking at to make sure that the structural now, on especially the major structural connections, are in good order. Thank you for watching our video. Please call us today at 800-649-3333 to discuss your fire escape issue with a live inspector or schedule an inspection in your area today.
But right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
About 50 people were displaced inside this building. However, firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in except the one unit where the fire was in. They said that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him.
Oh, I was scared to death.
But the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes. Rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes.
So then over here?
For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files.
But there's no fire escape certification.
Not in this file.
To see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the director of inspectional services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes.
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
Not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.